You ever had one of those moments where you know your whole life's about to change? Where you gotta make a choice that'll either make you a hero or get you killed? Let me ask you something. If you heard someone screaming for help, but helping them meant risking everything you'd worked for, what would you do? Would you walk away, call someone else to handle it? Or would you step up, even if it meant facing armed criminals? My name's Ethan Hutchinson. But on the CB radio, everyone knows me as Big Bear. Been hauling freight across these United States for 28 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Jackknifed rigs in blizzards, meth heads trying to hijack loads, even helped deliver a baby once in the sleeper cab of my Peterbilt. But what happened on that October morning on Route 66? Well, that's something that still keeps me up at night. It started like any other Tuesday. I was hauling a load of electronics from Phoenix to Chicago, making good time through Arizona. The sunrise was painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson as I rolled through Kingman, my 18-wheeler purring like a big metal cat. I just grabbed a coffee at the Flying J, black, no sugar, strong enough to wake the dead, when I heard something on the CB that made my blood run cold. Breaker, breaker, this is Knight Rider. Anyone else seeing that Freightliner weaving all over the damn road near mile marker 115? I keyed my mic. This is Big Bear. I'm about 5 miles behind you, Knight Rider. What's the 20 on that truck? White Freightliner, no company markings. Drivers all over the place like he's drunk or something. Wait, hold up. He's pulling into the Desert View rest stop. Something in my gut told me this wasn't right. In all my years on the road, I developed what my ex-wife used to call my trucker's intuition, and right now, every alarm bell in my head was going off. But nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to discover. I eased off the throttle, watching that unmarked Freightliner disappear into the rest stop ahead. You know how sometimes you just know something ain't right? Like when you're a kid and you can feel a storm coming before the first cloud appears. That's what this felt like. The Desert View rest stop was one of those old Route 66 relics, barely more than a parking area with some picnic tables and a couple of porta-johns. Most truckers avoided it unless they were desperate. Too isolated, too many stories of bad things happening there after dark. But it was broad daylight, and I figured I'd just cruise through, make sure everything was copacetic. As I downshifted and turned into the rest area, I saw the white Freightliner parked crooked across 3 spaces. The driver, a skinny guy with a baseball cap pulled low, was standing by the trailer, smoking and looking nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. He kept checking his phone and glancing around like he was expecting someone. I pulled my rig into a spot where I could keep an eye on him, pretending to check my logbook. That's when I heard it. A sound that made every hair on my neck stand up. It was faint, muffled, but unmistakable. Someone was banging on metal. And it was coming from inside that trailer. My hands started shaking. In 28 years of driving, I'd heard all the urban legends, stories about trucks carrying things they shouldn't. Most were just BS told over coffee at truck stops. But this was real, and those weren't random bangs. They had a rhythm, 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, SOS. I reached for my CB, then stopped. If this was what I thought it was, announcing it over the radio might spook the driver. I needed to be smart about this. But as I sat there, trying to figure out my next move, something happened that changed everything. The driver walked to the back of his trailer and started unlocking it. And that's when I heard the screams. The screams cut through the morning air like a knife through butter, high-pitched, desperate, and definitely female. My hand moved to the door handle before my brain could even process what I was doing, but then I stopped. You don't survive nearly 3 decades on the road by being stupid. This skinny bastard might be armed, and I had no idea if he had partners nearby. I grabbed my phone and started to dial 911, but my signal was weaker than gas station coffee. 1 bar, flickering in and out, damn desert dead zones. The driver was fumbling with the lock, cursing under his breath. That's when I noticed something that made my blood boil. There were air holes drilled in the side of that trailer. Fresh ones too, The metal shavings were still on the ground. "Easy does it, Ethan," I muttered to myself, using my real name like I always did when shit got serious. I reached under my seat and grabbed my tire thumper, a small baseball bat truckers use to check tire pressure. Not much against a gun, but better than nothing. The driver finally got the lock open and climbed up into the trailer. The screaming got louder, and now I could hear him yelling back. "Shut up, todos ustedes, calense. You want water, then shut your mouths." My Spanish ain't great, but I understood enough. There were multiple people in there, and from the sound of it, they'd been in there a while. I keyed my CB one more time, switching to channel 19. "Breaker, breaker, this is Big Bear at Desert View Rest Stop, mile marker 120. Got a situation here. Need as many drivers as possible to box in a white Freightliner. And somebody call the Bears, we got a real problem." The response was immediate. "Big Bear, this is Roadrunner. I'm 2 miles out. What's your 20 on that problem?" "Human cargo," I said, knowing every trucker on that channel would understand exactly what that meant. "Drivers in the trailer with them now." The CB exploded with chatter. Truckers might compete for loads and cuss each other out over parking spots, but when it came to something like this, we were brothers. Within seconds, I had confirmations from 6 different rigs heading my way. "Big Bear, this is Cherokee, bringing my flatbed from the east, ETA 3 minutes. Rubber Duck here, coming in hot from the west with a full load of steel." But 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. The skinny driver climbed back out of the trailer, and I got my first good look at his face. Hollow cheeks, twitchy movements, looked like he hadn't slept in days. Probably running on meth or something worse. He was carrying a plastic water jug, and his other hand was in his jacket pocket. The shape pressing against the fabric looked an awful lot like a pistol. That's when I saw her. A small hand reached out from the darkness of the trailer, desperately grasping for the water. The driver kicked at it, snarling something I couldn't hear. The hand disappeared, but not before I saw the bruises on the wrist. These people had been fighting to get out. I made my decision. Sometimes in life, you gotta choose between being safe and being right. I fired up my Detroit diesel, that big engine roaring to life like an angry dragon. The driver's head snapped toward me, his hand coming out of his pocket. Yep, definitely a gun. But here's the thing about a fully loaded 18-wheeler. It's basically a 40-ton battering ram, and I positioned it right behind his Freightliner, close enough that he couldn't close those trailer doors without going through me. His eyes went wide when he realized what I was doing. "You stupid son of a bitch," he screamed, waving his pistol. "Move that truck! You don't know who you're messing with." I leaned out my window, making sure he could see the tire thumper in my hand. "Partner, I've been driving longer than you've been alive, and I ain't moving nothing until those people are safe." That's when I heard the beautiful sound of Jake brakes. Lots of them. The cavalry arrived like thunder rolling across the desert. Cherokee's flatbed came screaming in from the east, loaded with rebar that clanged like church bells. Rubber Duck's Kenworth, all chrome and attitude, blocked the western exit. Within minutes, we had that rest stop sealed up tighter than a pickle jar. The skinny driver was spinning in circles, pointing his gun at each truck as they rolled in. "You're all crazy. You don't know what you're doing. These people, they're not what you think." "Son," came a gravelly voice over the CB, "this is Preacher Man in the blue Western Star. Been driving since before you were born. Now you put that pea-shooter down before someone gets hurt." I watched as more rigs pulled in. A car hauler blocked the entrance ramp. A tanker truck, brave bastard, parked right alongside the Freightliner. The driver was trapped, and he knew it. But desperate men do desperate things. He yanked open the trailer doors wide, and what I saw inside made my stomach turn. Must have been 15, maybe 20 people crammed in there. Men, women. Christ, there were kids. They were huddled in the corner, blinking in the sudden sunlight like moles. The smell hit me even from 30 feet away. Sweat, fear, and worse. "You want to be heroes?" the driver screamed. "Fine, but when my boss finds out what you've done, you're all dead. Every last one of you." That's when she appeared. A young woman, couldn't have been more than 19 or 20, stepped forward from the group. Her clothes were torn, face bruised, but her eyes, Her eyes had more fight in them than a wildcat. She said something in Spanish to the others, then looked right at me. "Please," she said in accented English, "please help us. We've been in here for 3 days, no food, little water. Maria, she's sick, very sick. She needs hospital." The driver tried to slam the trailer doors shut, but the girl was already halfway out. He grabbed her arm, yanking her back, and that's when all hell broke loose. A big trucker from the tanker, had to be 300 pounds of pure Tennessee muscle, was out of his cab and moving before I could blink. The driver swung his pistol toward him, but Cherokee was already coming from the other side with a crowbar. The gun went off, the shot echoing across the desert like a firecracker. The bullet sparked off Cherokee's flatbed, missing him by inches. "Everybody down!" I yelled, but these weren't ordinary civilians. These were truckers, men and women who'd faced down ice roads, mountain passes, and every kind of danger the highway could throw at them. Instead of running, they converged. The CB crackled with Roadrunner's voice. "State bears are 10 minutes out. Keep him contained." 10 minutes. Might as well have been 10 hours. The people in the trailer were pouring out now, stumbling into the sunlight. An older man was carrying a little boy who couldn't have been more than 5. A pregnant woman was being helped by 2 teenagers. And in the back, lying on the floor, was Maria, unconscious, burning with fever. The driver was backing toward his cab, gun swinging wildly. "Stay back! I'll shoot! I swear to God, I'll shoot!" That's when I noticed something that changed everything. His phone, dropped in the scuffle, was lying on the asphalt. The screen was lit up with messages, GPS coordinates, delivery instructions, and a contact name that made my blood run cold. Phoenix Distribution, handler. This wasn't some lone wolf operation. This was organized, professional. And if those coordinates were right, this truck was supposed to deliver these people to a warehouse in Flagstaff in less than 2 hours. When they didn't show up, "We got a problem, boys," I said into the CB. "This is bigger than just one truck." The pregnant woman collapsed right there on the hot asphalt. 2 truckers rushed to help her while Preacher Man grabbed his first aid kit. The whole scene was chaos. People crying, the driver still waving his gun, sirens finally audible in the distance. "Water!" someone yelled. "We need water!" Every trucker there started pulling bottles from their cabs. I grabbed my whole cooler and started passing them out. That's when the young woman who'd spoken earlier grabbed my arm. Her grip was stronger than I expected. "Mister, you don't understand," she said urgently. "There are more trucks, 3 more. They left before us. My little sister is in one of them." My heart sank. "When? When did they leave?" "Yesterday. Maybe 6 hours before us. Please, they're taking them to—" The gunshot cut her off. The driver had tried to make a run for it, shooting at Rubber Duck's tires. Big mistake. You don't shoot at a man's rig. 3 truckers tackled him at once, and that pistol went skittering across the pavement like a hockey puck. Cherokee kicked it under his flatbed, but the damage was done. The driver was screaming now, not in English or Spanish, but in Russian. And what he was saying, even without understanding the words, sounded like threats. Bad ones. I ran back to my cab and grabbed the phone he'd dropped. The messages were still coming in. "Where are you? Status report, now. If you've compromised the operation." Then I saw it, a message with photos. 3 other trucks, same unmarked white trailers, license plates visible, and departure times from a warehouse in Phoenix. My hands were shaking as I realized what this meant. Those trucks were still out there, carrying God knows how many people to God knows where. Bloco 8. The state troopers arrived like the 7th Cavalry, lights blazing and sirens wailing. But it wasn't just a couple of bears. It was a whole convoy. FBI, Border Patrol, even a helicopter circling overhead. Someone had been taking our calls seriously. A female FBI agent, all business in her bulletproof vest, took charge immediately. "Everyone back! This is a crime scene." But when she saw the people from the trailer, her professional mask slipped. "Jesus Christ! Medics! We need medics now!" I handed her the phone. "Ma'am, there's 3 more trucks out there. Left yesterday." This one was running behind because—" She cut me off, eyes widening as she scrolled through the messages. "You're Ethan Hutchinson, the one who called this in?" "Yes, ma'am. Big Bear on the CB. But listen, those other trucks—" "We know." She pulled out her own phone, barking orders. "This is Agent Chen. We need roadblocks on I-40, Route 66, and 89 North. We're looking for 3 white Freightliners, no markings. Consider armed and dangerous." The skinny driver was in cuffs now, still screaming in Russian. One of the Border Patrol agents was translating, his face getting paler with every word. The pregnant woman was on a stretcher, heading for an ambulance. Maria was already gone, life-flighted to Flagstaff Medical, but it was the stories from the survivors that hit hardest. The young woman, Elena, I learned, told the FBI how they'd been promised jobs in Los Angeles. Good jobs. Clean jobs. How they'd paid everything they had to men who said they could get them across safely. How the trucks had stopped in the desert and different men had taken over, men with guns and no smiles. "My sister is only 15, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. "They separated us in Phoenix, said the pretty ones go in different trucks. That's when the real weight of what we'd stumbled onto hit me. This wasn't just human trafficking. This was— God. I couldn't even think the words." Agent Chen pulled me aside, her voice low and urgent. "Mr. Hutchinson, I need you to think. Did you see anything else? Any identifying marks on that truck? Anything that might help us find the others?" I closed my eyes, trying to remember. 28 years of noticing details that could save your life on the road. Then it hit me. The mud flaps. They had a logo worn down, but I could make out part of it. Started with trans something. Trans Global Logistics? "That's it, you know them." Her face went hard. "We've been trying to nail them for 2 years. They're a front company, supposedly legit, but we knew they were dirty. This is the break we needed." She turned to another agent. "Get me everything on Trans Global's fleet movements in the last 48 hours. The CB in my truck was going crazy. Word had spread up and down Route 66, and every trucker with a radio was on the lookout. Then Cherokee's voice cut through the chatter. "Big Bear, you copy. This is Cherokee. My cousin runs the scales at Ash Fork. Says 3 white Freightliners blew through without stopping about 4 hours ago. Bears gave chase, but lost them near Williams." Williams. That was less than an hour from Flagstaff, if they were headed to that warehouse. "Agent Chen!" I called out. "They were spotted near Williams 4 hours ago." She was already running to her vehicle, shouting coordinates into her radio. The helicopter that had been circling suddenly banked hard and headed northeast. More sirens filled the air as additional units screamed past the rest stop. Elena grabbed my hand as they were loading her into an ambulance. "You saved us," she whispered. "But please, my sister, we'll find her," I promised, praying I wasn't lying. "We'll find them all." The rest stop looked like a war zone. Emergency vehicles everywhere, survivors being treated and interviewed, that bastard driver sitting in the back of a patrol car still running his mouth. But all I could think about were those 3 other trucks. My CB crackled again. "Big Bear, this is Moonlight Mile. I'm northbound on 89 out of Flagstaff. Just past 3 white Freightliners pulled over by what looks like every cop in Arizona. They got 'em, brother. They got 'em!" The cheer that went up from the truckers at the rest stop could probably be heard in Phoenix. I slumped against my truck, suddenly feeling every one of my 52 years. We'd done it. We'd actually done it. Agent Chen came back an hour later, looking exhausted but satisfied. "Mr. Hutchinson, I wanted you to know. We got them. All 3 trucks. 47 people total, including Elena's sister. She's safe. Won't be in the operation. Thanks to that phone you saved and the quick response, we're rolling up the entire network. Raids in Phoenix, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. This was bigger than we imagined. International connections. You didn't just save 20 people today. You probably saved hundreds more." She handed me a business card. "There's going to be a commendation, media attention. You ready for that?" I looked around at my fellow truckers. Cherokee was sharing his coffee with some of the survivors. Rubber Duck was on his radio, coordinating with other drivers to watch for suspicious trucks. Preacher Man was sitting with the older man and the little boy, sharing cookies from his lunchbox. "It wasn't just me," I said. "Every one of these drivers stepped up. We're not heroes. We couldn't drive by, you understand?" She smiled, the first real emotion I'd seen from her. "Yeah, I understand. But the world needs to hear this story. 20 truckers shut down a human trafficking ring because they gave a damn. That matters." The media circus that followed was something else. CNN, Fox, NBC, they all wanted the story of the truckers who created a 47-car traffic jam to save lives. But sitting in my cab 3 weeks later, heading back onto Route 66 with a load of furniture bound for Chicago, I couldn't shake what Elena had told me during one of the interviews. "You know what convinced the others to run from the trailer?" she'd said. "When they saw all those trucks surrounding us, they said, 'These are the real Americans, the ones who stop.' That stuck with me. In 30 years of driving, I'd seen the best and worst of humanity from behind this wheel. But that morning at Desert View Rest Stop, I saw what happens when ordinary people decide that someone else's problem is their problem too. The trial was swift. Our Russian friend, turned out his name was Dmitry Volkov, flipped faster than a pancake on a truck stop griddle, gave up the whole network to avoid life in prison. Trans-Global Logistics was shut down, assets seized. The CEO and 12 others were indicted on federal trafficking charges, but the real victory came in smaller moments. I got a letter from Maria, the sick woman from the trailer. She'd survived, barely. Severe dehydration and heat exhaustion, but she made it. She named her baby boy Ethan, said it meant strong in Hebrew, and she wanted him to grow up strong like the truckers who saved them. Cherokee started a CB network called Guardian Angels, truckers who pledged to watch for trafficking signs and had direct lines to FBI hotlines. Within a month, we had 3,000 members. Rubber Duck even got some tech-savvy nephew to make an app for it. 6 months later, I found myself back at that same rest stop. Desert View mile marker 120. They'd put up a plaque in honor of the truckers who stood up for those who couldn't stand. Corporate nonsense, but the sentiment was real. I was refilling my coffee when a familiar voice called out, "Big Bear?" It was Eleanor, cleaned up, healthy, wearing a waitress uniform from the truck stop diner. Her sister Rosa was with her, both of them smiling like they'd won the lottery. "We work here now," Eleanor explained. "The owner, he hired all of us who wanted jobs. Said it was the least he could do. My sister, she's going to school, wants to be a lawyer, help people like us." "That's beautiful, darling. Really beautiful. You know what I learned?" Elena said, pouring my coffee. "Evil travels on highways, but so does good." And that morning, good had bigger trucks. I laughed at that, the first real laugh I'd had in months. She was right. We'd turned our rigs into a fortress that day, 40 tons of steel, saying, "Not on our watch." Now, as I pulled back onto Route 66, heading into the sunset with a full load and an empty sleeper, I thought about all the miles ahead. Somewhere out there, another driver might spot something wrong. Another person might need help. And maybe, just maybe, they'd remember the story of the truckers who caused a 47-car traffic jam for all the right reasons. The CB crackled to life. "Breaker, breaker, this is Cherokee. Guardian Angel 447 checking in. All clear on the westbound." "Copy that, Cherokee." "This is Big Bear. Guardian Angel 0001. Keep your eyes open and your hearts ready, drivers. We're not just hauling freight out here." 10-4, Big Bear. We're hauling hope." I smiled and pushed the accelerator, my Detroit diesel singing its familiar song. The road stretched out before me, endless and full of possibilities. Somewhere behind me, Eleanor and Rosa were building new lives. Somewhere ahead, other truckers were watching, ready to be heroes if the moment called. That's the thing about Route 66. It's more than just asphalt and history. It's a lifeline. And sometimes, when the devil tries to use it for evil, it takes a bunch of gear-jamming, coffee-drinking, CB-talking truckers to remind everyone what this road really stands for: freedom, hope, and the absolute certainty that when good people see evil, they don't just drive on by, they stop, they block the road, and they call in the cavalry, because that's what Americans do. At least, that's what we did that morning at mile marker 120 when 20 truckers decided that causing a traffic jam was a small price to pay for saving lives. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. 10-4, good buddies. Big Bear out.